So a bit of breaking news coming out in the last couple of minutes, and it's being reported who is scheduled to be the next inductee into the 2021 class of the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, this hasn't been confirmed as of yet. It hasn't been announced by WWE, so we'll give you a couple of seconds before we reveal the name. Let's do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, we can get into who this name is going to be. It's none other than Mr. Monday Night, Mr. Tuesday Night, Mr. Whatever Night he performed on. Rob Van Dam is scheduled to be the next WWE Hall of Fame induction class nominee. Now, this is being reported by Fightful Select because a new name has been revealed for this year's WWE Hall of Fame class, and it's RVD, aka Rob Van Dam. Now, this is being reported by Fightful Select. Fightful Select is Fightful's Patreon service. Be sure to check that out and subscribe. They drop lots of exclusive, lots of scoops, lots of very interesting information, behind-the-scenes information first. Now, they reported the news this afternoon. The ECW, WWE, and TNA veteran joins Eric Bischoff and Molly Holly in the class of this year's 2021 induction class for the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, he's been out of the WWE for the last few years. His last run came to an end in 2014. Rob Van Dam previously stated that he would make a return to WWE if the money and the schedule was right. Now, he has dealt with a history of suffering concussions in the past, which was covered in a documentary. His latest run with the big company saw him in Impact Wrestling from 2019 till 2020, along with his now fiancée, Katie Forbes. It's already been confirmed that he will be featured on an upcoming episode of the WWE Icons documentary series on the WWE Network. Now, while with WWE, he's a Grand Slam champion. He's held the WWE Championship, the Intercontinental European Tag Team and Hardcore Championships. Of course, during that time there with WWE as well, he also held the WWE ECW Championship too. He's a former ECW television champion as well, holding the longest reign with that championship. Now, of course, this year for the WWE Hall of Fame, there will be 2 induction classes. There will be the 2020 Hall of Fame induction class that was postponed last year due to the global pandemic. We'll also have the 2021 Hall of Fame induction class 2, as I mentioned, which will include Molly Holly, Eric Bischoff, and now Rob Van Dam. The ceremony will take place on Tuesday, April 6th, which will air on the WWE Network and Peacock in the United States. So, as I mentioned, this one, I must stress once again, it hasn't been confirmed yet officially by WWE. One would think, given that Fightful are going with it and Fightful are being public on their Patreon service, then it's pretty likely that this is going to be confirmed very soon. It's Tuesday today, so I would assume, and I could be wrong here, but I would assume this is probably going to be announced tomorrow on the bump. Considering that is the way that they've basically been doing the announcements for these WWE Hall of Fame induction class nominees for this year. Of course, Molly Holly previously was announced on the bump on Wednesday, which is their sort of social media, YouTube, streaming kind of midweek show, which is hosted by Kayla Braxton and all of those other guys at the WWE Digital. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was announced tomorrow on the bump, or of course it could be announced on After the Bell, because last week Eric Bischoff, former WCW president and Raw general manager, his WWE Hall of Fame induction announcement was made during the After the Bell podcast series with Corey Graves and Vic Joseph. So again, we could be looking at a similar situation. So I think at some point this week it's going to be announced. I don't know if WWE will rush the announcement because it's already started to leak out because of Fightful's report. I don't know if that will be the case. We'll obviously have to wait and see when it comes to that. But I think likely we're probably looking at a situation where it's either announced tomorrow during the bump or maybe Thursday or After the Bell. Whenever After the Bell comes out, I think it's either Thursday or Friday or something like that. So that's what we're probably looking at, I think. It's probably most likely it's going to be announced in the coming days. As far as Rob Van Dam being a WWE Hall of Famer, I think it's an absolutely fantastic choice. Does this mean that he's probably not going to return to a WWE ring again? I don't think it's impossible. I mentioned when we were talking about the report there, RVD, and it's kind of a well-known thing at this point, RVD has had several concussions during his career. I mean, wrestling for ECW, as much as Van Dam did in the late 1990s, he's going to have a hell of a lot of concussions during his career. I think the significant one was, and this came out, and again, I know this is meant to be celebrating RVD, so I'm not even sure about really talking about it, but during a couple of years ago, RVD got divorced, and during what was a very public divorce in court, They obviously have to disclose lots of things when it comes to earnings and splitting assets and finances, that kind of stuff. It was revealed that essentially RVD can't be cleared by WWE doctors and medical personnel because he suffered a concussion on an independent show several years back, and it was a real severe concussion. He actually lost partial sight in one of his eyes because of it, or he suffers from severe blurred vision because of this. Now, obviously, that hasn't stopped Van Dam performing for other companies since then. As I mentioned, he was with Impact Wrestling from 2019 to 2020, and he had several big matches in that company, and he was heavily featured on Impact Wrestling television. So, obviously, it didn't prevent him from performing for Impact Wrestling. I don't know if they have similar, higher or lower clearances for people competing there. I don't know. I don't know if Impact Wrestling has any, frankly, when it comes to that. But maybe that's the case, that he can't compete for WWE again because he can't get cleared. Every time he's returned, and I think the last time we saw him on camera, if I recall correctly, was the Raw Reunion 2019? I think it was Raw Reunion in 2019. He appeared, and he was still under a contract with Impact Wrestling at the time when he made that appearance. But he didn't get involved physically. He came out, he was still in his gear and all that sort of stuff, but I don't recall him doing a 5-star frog splash or anything of the such. So the last time he did wrestle for WWE was in 2014. He came back just after WrestleMania 30, I believe, and had a brief run with the company. That was when he was having these sort of three-month runs with the company, that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, look, when it comes to his career, absolutely, Rob Van Dam is an obvious pick for the WWE Hall of Fame. He is incredibly well deserved. Obviously, all of these discussions come up about when people get nominated and get inducted into the Hall of Fame, whether or not they deserve it, whether it's a good pick, all that kind of stuff. Van Dam is an absolute pioneer. He's a trailblazer. You look at some of the movesets, some of the athleticism, and some of the matches that we see nowadays in professional wrestling. RVD obviously had a massive influence in all of that. Van Dam, during the time that he started to come up in the 1990s, nobody was doing what Rob Van Dam was doing. Rob Van Dam was one of those super popular and over stars because of the offense that he brought in the ring. I mean, the kind of martial arts stuff, the spin kicks, the 5-star frog splashes, the flexibility, the kicks, all of that. Van Dam was immensely popular. I know growing up, when I was younger, Rob Van Dam was one of the most popular superstars of my generation because, again, he was... some of the stuff he did in the ring was incredible. He did some stuff in the ring that nobody else did or could do. He had an awesome look. His ring gear with the singlet with the spray painted kind of graffiti look, all of that. He was a trailblazer. He was an absolute trailblazer. And he is more than deserving for being a member of the WWE Hall of Fame. In fact, before Van Dam became the WWE Champion in 2006, he was arguably, at the time in that conversation, of the greatest person never to win a World Championship at that period of time because he was that good. And that's, iconic. That, he was fantastic. He really was. He really was. And I think that's sometimes forgotten. About Rob Van Dam because he's continued to wrestle in recent years, and you've seen him in Impact, and you see him with Katie Forbes and all that kind of stuff. And obviously no disrespect to her or anything of the such, but people can often overlook and forget just how influential and just how popular Rob Van Dam was. I mean, again, at certain points of time, there you'd have struggled to find a more over wrestler in the entirety of professional wrestling. And this is during a time in the late 1990s where professional wrestling is as popular as it's ever been. Now, was Van Dam as popular as The Rock or Steve Austin? No, but there were periods of time when he was with WWE, after The Rock and after Steve Austin, but even when he first came into WWE as part of the whole Alliance Invasion thing in 2001, where he's getting the biggest and best reactions out of anyone on the roster at the time. He really was. And 2002, again, you'd struggle to find a professional wrestler more popular in the WWE in around 2002 than Rob Van Dam. There really was. And there was a real groundswell of support. I've been doing a lot of research when I've been doing some of my articles for Sportskeeda recently. And I was looking at Raws in 2002, and you just listen to the ovation that Van Dam would get during, I think, particularly back to his feud against Triple H, where he should have won the World Heavyweight Championship during that period of time. Now, they never did it, obviously, because that was Triple H's bout. He got handed that on Monday Night Raw. But during that period of time, man, there wasn't a more popular babyface on Monday Night Raw than Rob Van Dam. He was just that popular, and he was just that influential. And so many professional wrestlers nowadays, when you see their style in the ring, everything has almost got a bit of a touch of Rob Van Dam about it. And everyone's got an influence from Rob Van Dam, especially that high-flying, stiff, karate kicks, all that kind of stuff. That's all Van Dam. That's all Van Dam. He was such an innovator. He really was such an innovator, and more than deserving of a spot in the WWE Hall of Fame. As far as who will induct him, I'm not sure. Obviously, names like Sabu will obviously come to mind. Paul Heyman, possibly. Paul Heyman obviously was, the owner for a period of time of ECW, but certainly ran and booked ECW for a period of time during Rob Van Dam's success. And maybe considering that Paul Heyman is under the WWE umbrella right now, maybe Paul Heyman will be the one to induct him. I don't know nowadays when it comes to Hall of Fame, people that actually induct the wrestler into the Hall of Fame. I don't know how much autonomy that some of the professional wrestlers have. I know for certain people, like back when the Ultimate Warrior got inducted into the Hall of Fame, they were just so glad to have Warrior there. They said, you can have whoever you want to induct you. Sometimes they're kind of told, this is the person that's going to be inducting you. When it comes to Van Dam, I don't know how much of a say he will have in the situation. I would think if he had a say in it, he would probably want someone like Sabu to induct him into the WWE Hall of Fame. Will that happen or not? Sabu's quite a controversial figure nowadays in the world of professional wrestling. Some of the things he says on social media can be very eye-raising and eyebrow-raising and eye-opening, to say the least. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was a Paul Heyman or someone like that inducts him. Maybe even a Jerry Lynn. I think Jerry Lynn's with AEW right now, so that's probably highly unlikely too. Probably Heyman or Sabu. I know since some people say, well, what about Matt Riddle? Considering that RVD and Matt Riddle are so, it's the whole stoner character, isn't it? Nevertheless, I guess, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised, obviously, Van Dam being there for the WrestleMania week. I know the Hall of Fame this year is on a Tuesday, and WrestleMania, of course, is on a Saturday and a Sunday. Wouldn't be surprised if at WrestleMania we do see a backstage segment between Matt Riddle and Rob Van Dam. I don't want to call Matt Riddle the 2021 version of Rob Van Dam because I think they're completely different, frankly. Obviously, the parallels are there because of the outside of the ring antics, shall we say, when it comes to a certain plan. But I think maybe they'll play on that. I mean, that's Matt Riddle's character, isn't it? Is essentially a dumb stoner at this point. So why not? Why not have a segment with Matt Riddle and Rob Van Dam during WrestleMania week? Nevertheless, obviously, very, very good pick by WWE. As far as it being overdue, I don't think it's overdue. I mean, Van Dam's in his 40s at this point. To induct him earlier on, I don't think would have made a lot of sense. He's even spoken about himself that he's winding down his career. He, in fact, when he was with Impact Wrestling the last 18 months, 2 years or so, he said that he was surprised he was resting as much for them even as he was. He said the idea was to go there and do a couple of shots every couple of weeks, and he ended up resting far more than he actually wanted to. So I think Van Dam knows that he's winding down his career. Does this mean the end of his career? Probably not. If opportunities come up, he'll take it. If the money's right, if the schedule's right, like he said when it comes to WWE, he'll take it. But this is an honor that's absolutely fitting. And if Van Dam didn't get inducted into the Hall of Fame in sort of 5-10 years time, you would definitely be saying, why is someone like Rob Van Dam not being inducted into the Hall of Fame? So absolutely stellar choice by WWE. I think it also lends itself nicely to Rob Van Dam's upcoming, as mentioned, documentary on the WWE Icons series, which I'm very much looking forward to. I really enjoyed the Yokozuna one. I think the Beth Phoenix one is next. So all of that plays in very, very nicely. I guess it means that Van Dam for the foreseeable future is under the WWE umbrella. Not that he's going to be a wrestler, an active wrestler or anything like that. As I mentioned, is he going to have one more match for WWE? I don't know. I don't know if he can get cleared. And I think that's probably the biggest issue there. But very much excited for Van Dam. I don't know who's going to be the headliner for the 2021 Hall of Fame induction class, because no disrespect to Bischoff or Molly Holly or Van Dam, are they really the level of being, a headliner? I don't know. Van Dam and Bischoff certainly are very, very huge names in the world of professional wrestling, as is Molly Holly in the world of women's wrestling as well. Certainly a pioneer in WWE, absolutely. And in WCW, where she was there as part of the Macho Madness kind of stable as well. But are Van Dam or Molly Holly or Eric Bischoff, are they names that should be, that are going to headline the Hall of Fame induction class? I don't know. Certainly is interesting as well when it comes to Batista now, because it looks like he isn't going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. They're saving that for a future year when they're going to have an audience or a crowd there to be really able to enjoy it and celebrate it. So I don't know. I think we're probably going to see an even bigger name be announced in the coming weeks. Now, I know lots of people are saying, is that going to be The Undertaker? I don't see it. I think The Undertaker is going to be inducted next year into the Hall of Fame. Of course, WrestleMania is taking place in his home state of Texas, in Arlington, Texas, in the AT&T Stadium. So I think that is most likely going to be the case. So I don't know. I think we are going to see one more big name this year. As far as it is, I have no idea. But we know 3 names in the 2021 Hall of Fame induction class. We have Eric Bischoff, Molly Holly, and now Rob Van Dam. As I mentioned, hasn't yet been confirmed by WWE. This has been reported by Fightful, but expected to be announced in the coming days. But of course, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Rob Van Dam reportedly set to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2021? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, got the rankings, and get to people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.